We're recording. Start. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Talk Show with Jason Takhtadjian. I'm your host, none other than Jason Takhtadjian, and we are here to debut one of the new shows here on Studio 71. I'm one of the reporters, fill-in anchors, producers here at KC24 CBS 47, and I'm starting a talk show where I talk to folks in the Armenian community here in the Central Valley in California, and even above and beyond, outside of even the country, that are connected to the Armenian community, have a connection to the community in some way or another, and people who I'm just really interested in. And one person that I'm really interested in today, she needs no introduction. She is one of, if not the goats of broadcast when it comes to Fresno and the Central Valley. She helped me, get here to Fresno. And her name is Stefani Booroojian. Stefani, thank you so much for joining me. Some folks who are watching us at home or on their TVs, maybe they don't know this, but this is our second time recording this.
It's okay. We had a good practice.
We did have good practice. And, it's really cool, this new app that's launched already on Roku, on Apple TV and Fire Stick. Folks will be able to download that on the TVs to be able to watch this, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get it on mobile devices so we can watch it on the phones. And just, that's just where broadcast is going right now. Broadcast is constantly changing, and you have seen broadcast change so much. 42 years in the industry.
Yeah, trust me, I have seen a lot. But Jason, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your inaugural podcast. And I'm delighted to be here, and it's kind of nice to actually step back into the studios here. This is really the first time I've been back since I left in June of last year, so it was nice to come back and see some familiar faces.
It's really nice. I remember when I first joined, you called me while I was driving to Target and, buying stuff for the house and getting moved in and situated in Fresno, to just introduce yourself and say hi, because we have a mutual friend, Takhtadjian, and he connected us. And whenever I got that phone call and it was you, I was like so excited. Like I felt like butterflies in my stomach. I'm not even going to lie. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Stefani.
Oh, wow.
And you, with open arms said, I'm so excited that you're coming to the station. My time is coming to a close soon as far as retirement, but I'm looking forward to, the time that we'll be able to spend together and work together. And it was about 2 months that you and I spent together at the station. And it was a lot of fun to be able to, kind of see you in your element, and also, get feedback from you when it came to writing packages and just anything when it came to storytelling. And that I just want to thank you for. And I'm so glad that you're back at the station, and you've been here now for about a couple hours. So it's like you got here and you can't leave.
I'm going to clock in, I think, at a certain point. But no, I'm glad that we had a chance to work together for those 2 months. It was a pleasure working with you. And there were some other new reporters who came on board just as I was leaving. It was nice to meet them too, but especially you, Jason, because I knew when, about my retirement that was coming up. And I always, especially, in the latter half of my career, really did a lot of focus on covering Armenian-related stories. And so as I was leaving, it was nice to know that there was an a reporter of Armenian heritage joining the staff. And I think you've done a great job of just waving the flag at the Armenian flag when appropriate, and covering stories, I think, that are pertinent to our local Armenian community. And even non-Armenians, I know, have an interest in a lot of the same, in those issues. So I'm really proud to see I'm proud of you, see what you've done since I've been gone.
That really means a lot, and that it's words and people like you that say stuff like that that really helps me and motivates me to continue on doing what I'm doing, right? I've only been in this industry, in this position, in this field for almost 4 years. April 19th will be the four-year anniversary for me. And, it'd be a blessing to even reach the amount of time that you spent in broadcast, 42 years. And, you've seen a lot of change, but I want to talk about what the industry was like, what it was like for you when you first started. and just kind of also comparing what the industry was like back then to now and what you had to go through.
Well, the industry was a lot different. I mean, technology-wise, it was different. We were still typing our scripts on typewriters, for one thing, and the equipment itself to go out and shoot a story, the photographers would carry big recording, pieces of equipment, and the cameras were a lot larger. It would have been very difficult for someone to be a multimedia journalist like we see now, where I know you do this, and a lot of the other reporters go out and shoot and cover the stories on your own. It really, when I was first starting out, it had to be a two-person crew. There was so much equipment to carry. So it was a lot different just from a technology point of view. But it was different. I think it's the industry is, obviously much more advanced. I think the talent level is different. Yeah. But definitely I've seen a lot of changes. I think the role of women has changed, and I'm happy to see that. I've kind of was involved in that, somewhat of that evolution. There were certainly women in broadcasting before me, but I think the role and status of women has evolved quite a bit. Or I saw it evolve quite a bit over those 42 years.
And you, like you said, you've played a major part in that, because for me, I'm struggling to think about how many other people, not just men or women, but people have stayed with one station for as long as you have.
Well, I guess I'm sure I'm not unique, but it's not, typically in this industry, as you know, people come, they work, sign a 3-year contract, and then a lot of times at the end of that contract, they move on to a different market. Maybe they'll extend it for another period of time, but what's typical, it's very nomadic. People move, and that's how you progress in this industry, moving to a larger city. But for me, it was a different situation. I was born and raised in Fresno. I went to school here, got married here, had kids. So it was helpful to stay here. My parents lived here. They helped with childcare. There were many reasons for me to stay here, and my career was able to advance here at KC. So, there were many reasons for me to stay. And so that I know is a little bit unusual, but there were other people that were here before me that stayed many years too. So
I see.
Yeah.
I guess, from my perspective, it's a very different thing, because like you said, everyone's signing 2-year, 3-year contracts,
right.
Move on to the next thing. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely remarkable to see, that. For me, I want to know a little bit about, the first years and first time whenever you got into the industry, just what that was like for you, as far as not just being an Armenian reporter, but also, like I said, being a female, a woman in the industry, and just kind of what that entails and what you had to deal with as well.
Well, I think definitely when I finished school, when I got out of Fresno State, I had a degree in broadcasting, but you can only learn so much until you're actually on the job. So I was fortunate. I was hired at KC as a report. They had a position called reporter trainee. So that was what I got hired to do. And we had great reporters working at KC, at that time in the early 80s. And one of the young women who was on staff, who was a wonderful and kind person, she took me under her wing, and she really helped guide me and help, I guess, prepare me somewhat for my career ahead. I learned a lot from her, Sue Rosenstein. I will say, too, that I didn't get to work with her as long as I would like to have. She was actually the first person I ever met who had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She was in her early 30s, and she ended up passing away from breast cancer at the age of 37. So I guess it was important because, a few years after that, I was asked to introduce the Buddy Check 24 program for KC 24, which was the breast cancer awareness program. And I will never forget all of the help that Sue gave to me, but I also saw what she went through. And I think it was important for me to have seen that and think about her as Buddy Check continued over the course of, more than 2 decades, going on 3 decades now. And that was such an important was such an important program for me to be involved with here at KC24. And I do also, I do remember Sue Rosenstein and everything she did for me and all that she had to go through.
And I'm sure all those years of doing Buddy Check, I'm sure you have memories and, people that you made friends with that you see your stories having a direct impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. It is a life-saving program, and I met so many incredible, brave women who chose to share their story of their cancer journey. And so, it was one of the most gratifying programs I had ever been involved with.
That's amazing. Now, I want to talk more about, the content that you were part of and some of the stories that you were able to do, also when it comes to the Armenian community. And yes. I know that you said that towards the latter half of your career, you got more, you did more stories and there were more things happening, especially you being on the ground in Armenia.
Right.
Just take us through that, you seeing the Armenian coverage throughout your time here at KC, but then kind of when that shift happened, when the first trip to Armenia for you ended up happening.
And obviously I'm full-blooded Armenian. I certainly felt an important connection with my Armenian heritage. It was important to my family. All of my grandparents came from that part of the world. So, but I think I really grew to appreciate what it meant to be an Armenian when I got to go. And the first trip that I went on was our mutual friend Paul Takhtadjian had some great connections, and he told me, he was working here as a producer at that time, and he told me about an opportunity where the Armenian Tourism Council had wanted to have a group of American journalists come to Armenia and take a look at some of the sightseeing features. They wanted to promote Armenian as a tourist destination, and they had made a lot of improvements at some of these locations so that tourists would feel comfortable and welcome. So they took us to all of these amazing places in Armenia, Datev, and the beautiful Echmiadzin, and we learned about the Armenian cuisine and just all of the many historic places. And so it was like this whirlwind 1-week trip around Armenia. And I think at that moment, that's when I think things really I don't want to say change, because I always, felt a connection with my heritage, but it really was enriched. I think being there and to be in a country where at that time I felt like 99.9% of the population there was Armenian, and to be in a place where you're just surrounded by people like you is a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to go back many times for different reasons, but another important moment for me there was being on the ground for the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. And it was just really incredible to be there with the whole country just focused, on that event, to be there at the genocide monument in Yerevan. World leaders were there. Putin was there. I think the French president was there. I mean, significant people around the world were there to pay tribute to the Armenians, and that was a really incredible moment for me and for photographer Kevin Mahan, who joined me there. And I believe that we were the only news crew from the United States. Armenia really is under the radar of so much of the world. And so it was really, I felt proud to be there to document what happened, and then to be able to share it with our local community and say, hey, we're there for you. And so that was a really important moment. And then the last, I think, 5 or 6 trips have been with our honorary consul, Berj Apkarian, and his annual medical mission to Armenia. That was important for me too, because I got to see much of the rural communities in Armenia and into Artsakh, and the tremendous need there. There are many impoverished villages, and people don't have access to medical care, and to see our local doctors go there and help these people out is really so heartwarming. And I'm proud for our community to know that people truly care about others. And so that's been really important for me to go to Armenia with them, and also to Lebanon.
Absolutely. And tell us how many times you guys ended up going to Armenia and Lebanon, especially through
I've been to Lebanon once, and actually this May, I'm going to go with the medical mission again. They'll be returning to Lebanon. In Beirut, there's one sector of the city that at one time I think was primarily an Armenian community. Now it's much more diverse, but there is a clinic there that they will be going to. Our local doctors will be going and providing care to the community, regardless of their heritage. So it's open to anyone who wants to stop in. So I'll be going with them to do stories, and hopefully put to a special again that we will be airing. About the work they're doing. So this may be my maybe 7th or 8th time that I've traveled with Berj and his group. I'd have to go back and count, but it's been a lot. It's been a true honor and privilege to be able to go and report on the important work that they do.
Absolutely. I mean, just seeing what they do, the people that they help. And again, going back to the comment that you mentioned about the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, that KC was the only station there. I don't know of any other TV stations that even do these medical missions.
Well, I don't know. I can't say for sure that we were the only American news crew from the U.S. I didn't see any, and I was there were other crews from other parts of the country, but in terms of from the U.S., I didn't see any others, and we were in, the area where all the journalists were positioned. So I think it's sad that there isn't more of a focus on what's going on in Armenia, but I've been proud. I'm proud that I had the opportunity to do those stories.
Absolutely, because otherwise they wouldn't be done. And I think that's just the running theme of just stories that pertain to our culture, to the Armenian heritage, is that if we don't do them, nobody else is going to do them.
Right. It's a tiny, landlocked country, and it's in a very precarious place in this world, and it's just, I think it's important that we pay attention if we can.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, just on a side note, we don't have to go too deep into this, but, all those years that you went to those medical mission trips, I do wish that, we saw more of it, and it was nothing that you or the station could do, but just the Armenian communities in California to just have, more of a invested interest. Because I know here in Fresno, a lot of people knew about the medical mission trips. A lot of people were invested. And I've talked to a lot of people in person already in this past year to the doctors who went to those trips, and just the impact of so many people getting involved and invested. I just wish, and this is just like something I want to put out into the universe, something in Southern California can be done like that, or something in Detroit can be done like that.
And there are medical missions definitely in Southern California from other parts of the state and other parts of the country that do go to Armenia. But I don't know if those trips have been documented, but I'm proud that I was able to show what our local community has done. And those stories do exist online. So Fresno, and the not just Fresno, but our Central Valley medical community has been very supportive of what's happening in Armenia. And many of the doctors on the mission are not Armenian. They're just humanitarians. People that do this type of work are true humanitarians, and it's inspiring to see them, doing what they do.
That's awesome. Now
Yeah.
I wanna shift gears and talk
Okay.
a little bit about the tail end of your career, and more specifically, just before you retired.
Okay.
Just what was that like for you, as far as deciding when it is to kind of hang up the
Wrap it all up.
microphone, wrap up the microphone cord, or so to say, and just was anything scary or nervous or making you anxious, as far as like you've known this as your life for so long and now you're changing?
Definitely, it was entering the unknown. But I felt, and no one, I was not forced into making that decision by any means. I honestly, the management at Casey was very supportive, and they allowed me to do this on my own terms. And it had been something I had been thinking about for a while. And at a certain point, I just thought, I'm ready. And it just got to the point where I felt like I had done what I was done. And so, but it was, I honestly had thought about it for a long time, and the timing just seemed right. When looking back, I can't even believe I'm approaching 1 year. I can't even believe it. It just seems like yesterday that I was here. But I don't really have any regrets about it. I could have continued doing what I was doing, but there were other things. I have other interests and things that I enjoy doing, and I wanted more time to do that. My kids my son's in Southern California, my daughter's on the East Coast. I wanted more time to be able to go visit. I wanted more time for my hobbies that I enjoy doing. So that's what I've been doing. And while I do miss seeing people that I worked with, like you, Jason, and others that I really consider friends, that's probably been the hardest part, not seeing you guys, but I really feel at peace with making that decision, and it's been an okay transition.
Yeah, I would say, you have definitely been a bit busy since retiring. And you mentioned your kids, and I wanted to ask if you've been able to travel, because I know that I've seen a couple of photos on social media of you getting out and about. And have you been able to go and get out of Fresno a little bit?
Yeah, I have gone to the East Coast a couple times. My husband and I have some trips planned this summer, and we're going to take a cruise and do some other things. So yeah, I wanted the time to do that. It's been nice. For instance, it was nice, like watching election coverage from home and not having the stress of having, to be working on the air for events like that. It's nice to watch the Olympics at home and not be involved in how it makes things so crazy here. It's just been nice to not have to worry about working on holidays and that type of thing. As you know, we work, every day of the year, and from morning till night. And when you're on staff, a lot of times we have to work holidays. It's nice not to have to worry about those things. I just wanted to have more of a normal life, and I do have that now. So it's been good.
That's really good. You also are becoming a master gardener, right?
I got involved in the Master Gardener program. It's a class of 16-week class, so I'm almost done with that, and it involves a lot of volunteer hours in the community. So gardening has always been a real love of mine. So I've really enjoyed being a part of that program, and I look forward to continuing that. And I have hobbies. I like to sew, and I like to garden at home, so I'm doing more of those things.
Oh, you're saying sewing, like you can make like a sweater
and
stuff like that
clothing,
too?
Yeah.
Ah,
so
okay.
I'll make clothing for anyone who wants anything. So if you need a shirt, let me know.
Well, hey, it is summer or it's warming up rather, but
Yeah.
I'll take a sweater anytime I can get my hands on a sweater.
Oh, all right.
Especially made by the one and only Stefani Booroojian.
Yeah.
So that's really neat. It seems like you're trying to stay busy.
Yeah,
as far as
staying busy.
are you ever thinking about coming back to work, or Like you said,
You
never.
know, I would maybe consider doing something that I feel passionate about. I'm glad that I get the opportunity to continue working with Berj, Abkarian, and the medical mission. It'll be fun to do that on this next trip to Lebanon. And I will say that the one thing I always really enjoyed about my job was the storytelling aspect. So I do miss doing that. I love putting stories together and telling other people's stories. So it'll be fun and I know rewarding to be able to do something like that again. That was always a really I always really enjoyed that part of my job.
You know, I will always remember those, cards or messages or emails that I would get. You know, the first story that I did when I was in Iowa was actually a Veterans Voices piece. So it was a feature on a veteran, and I just so happened to have a 99-year-old World War II Navy pilot.
Wow.
That I did a story on. And I think it was the week afterwards I got a letter from his son saying, "Thank you so much for doing the story on my father. We really appreciate it. Can we get a copy?" And then it was like just so nice and so sweet that they went out of their way and sent a letter to the station and obviously the general manager and everybody got wind of it and they're like, "Oh, Jason got mail."
Yeah. It's so nice to get positive feedback.
It
like
is,
that.
but we were talking about it earlier. Sometimes and we're almost at the end of the show. Sometimes we don't get the most positive feedback. I'll share one anecdote. I know you have one, but long story short, someone commented on my eyebrows.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it's like, oh, as an Armenian, like, when have I heard that one before? Like talking about how thick it was and comparing it to, like, I forget what the character is, but I think it was from the Addams Family or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I was like, oh, maybe I should get my eyebrows, like, trimmed up or something like that.
Whatever. Yeah, I know. I've shared the story earlier with you about someone who left me a voicemail message. This was long before I think there were even emails saying that I have had too many nose jobs, and can I please go back to my plastic surgeon and have my nose made the way it was before. I've never had a nose job, so I don't know what this person was seeing,
God.
but yeah.
Not only were they seeing a nose job on your already natural nose, but they were seeing a second nose job.
Yeah. I don't know.
And they thought that,
My
just
nose
go back,
was shrinking.
go back to the surgeon. They'll fix
How
it,
do
right?
they do that? I don't even know if that's possible. But
I don't know if that's possible either.
don't-
But then again, someone who gives like a criticism like that, I don't know if you want to
I
take
don't
it
know.
with any
I
sort of
figure,
value,
like
right?
the lighting must have been something was wrong with it.
Well,
Who knows?
Well, Stephanie, before we go, I'll leave you with one final question.
Okay.
Maybe it's existential, maybe it's one of those that's a deep question, but if there's someone that's starting in the broadcast industry today, what would be the word of advice that you would give to them?
I think, the industry has changed so much, but I really think the advice would be to focus on the storytelling. Mm-hmm. That's the most important part. Putting a compelling story together with words for television, picture or digital pictures and sound. And I think if you can really focus on doing that and not focusing so much on, makeup and hairstyles and stuff. Obviously that part is important too, but the storytelling is really the most important part. And I think that should be first and foremost what I think young journalists should be working on, telling the story in an unbiased way and doing the best story you can with the resources that you have.
All right. Well, that's amazing. I'm going to take that for take
you
your word for it.
You already do that.
Thank you. I hope anybody who's watching, any of the, maybe their fellow reporters at other stations around Fresno, maybe some high schoolers, I hope they take your words for what they are and apply them to their lives because you're a professional, you're great, and you've helped me.
I tried my best.
And I think you did great. That's my opinion. I think you did a fantastic job, and I think a lot of people would, if not everybody, will agree with me.
Thank you, Jason.
Of course. Well, I think that's going to do it for the first episode of The Talk Show. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for including me.
Of course.